It's Monday, the 23rd of March 2020. Yesterday, Pedro Sanchez, the Prime Minister of Spain, called for the European Union to launch a Marshall Plan-style public investment programme to mitigate the economic impact of COVID-19. Europe can and must do more, and we request that it does do more, he said. But how can the member states of the EU pull together to protect their economies? One idea proposed last week by a remarkable group of European economists from both ends of the ideological spectrum is a COVID credit line. One of those economists is Beatrice Weder de Mauro, president of the Centre for Economic Policy Research, and she joins us today. Beatrice, hello again.
Hi, Tom.
Now, before we talk about the concept of the COVID credit line, the CEPR has been very active over the last couple of weeks discussing the policy response to COVID-19. What we're doing now is an example of that. Are we going to see more of this over the next couple of months?
Yes, we are, Tim. This is something where we really can show the power of the CEPR network. As you know, policymakers have really been struggling over these last 2-3 weeks in Europe to come up with appropriate responses. And they do need people to agree, they need consensus of experts, they need advice, and they need timely analysis. And all of that is something that we have been able to provide through the combination of CEPR network and the EU platform, VoxEU platform. We are also determined to continue doing that. We have actually opened a COVID platform on VoxEU and are inviting proposals, contributions there. And moreover, and starting in fact right now, we want to launch a whole series of interviews like this, video interviews, but also webinars related to COVID. And now that we are all home, this is the place to meet.
Well, probably people are going to be seeing a lot more of you in the next few weeks, probably more than they ever did. So let's talk about this credit line. What would the credit line be, and how big does it need to be?
Well, the idea is really to provide three things. One is it's a fiscal counterpart to the big bazooka that the ECB has announced last week. Second, it's a quick way of mobilizing resources that are available in the ESM in the form of a lending capacity of 410 billion euro. And last but not least, it's a strong signal that Europe can act and that the euro area stands together in emergencies.
And how's it going to work in practice?
In practice, what we are proposing is that the ESM and the ESM members establish a new facility, a new dedicated credit line, which would be different from the existing ones because they do not fit the present situation. It would be for all members, but the allocation would be according to the most needed countries and the ones where the impact is largest of fighting this pandemic.
And does every country in the euro area need to take part in this? Would it still work if one or two of them said, this isn't for us?
Clearly, it's for everybody. And in fact, this is a new credit line which would have a very light conditionality. So it should fit for everybody. The conditionality essentially would be to say, do everything that is needed to limit the economic fallout of this crisis. And as soon as the crisis is declared over, this would also be finished. So this is very different from the type of conditionality that you typically have at the IMF or at the ESM in the wake of a financial crisis.
Yes, because don't we have something like this already in the ESM, Beatrice, the enhanced conditions credit line? What's the difference?
Well, there are precautionary credit lines, 2 of them in the ESM at the moment, but again, they don't fit. Essentially, the way that they are thinking about, that they are conceived is for asymmetric shock, country-specific shocks, shocks that have to do very often with excessive leverage, either in the public sector or in the private sector, and therefore require short-term, quick adjustment in the balance of payments, in the budgets. And so there are there are conditionalities in the enhanced credit line already, which again do not fit at the moment. Plus, an important point is also the duration is too short. Here we are talking about a huge shock, a common shock, and definitely the duration of the lending has to be long.
But this is going to require the commitment and solidarity of everyone in the euro area. And for those of us who were around last time there was a crisis, will remember that this wasn't always evident a decade ago. Do you think we can get everyone on board this time?
Well, again, this is different. This time really is different. And it's true that, you know, the last years we have seen a lot of discussions among euro area members, but essentially because there was always this view that is said that shocks would be asymmetric, that certain countries were much more prone to have them. And now here we are seeing, yes, it may have started out as an Italian problem, but it is very quickly becoming a very similar problem everywhere in Europe and in the euro area. And therefore, providing a shield for the economies of these countries, for the people of these countries, but also for the common currency, by the way, is a very important common interest. So it's not only solidarity that we're talking about here, it is also very much the self-interest of all member countries for this to happen.
Now, this is only an idea at the moment, but say the members committed to it this week. How long does that give us to put this in place?
In principle, this could be put in place relatively quickly. That's exactly why we are suggesting this credit line through the ESM rather than the alternative, which would be some kind of joint issuance. For a kind of Corona or Eurobond, there is no real entity right now that could go to market and that could have the preconditions to mobilize quickly. Whereas the ESM does have these reserves. If member countries agree, if there is the political will to agree on a new credit line, this could be done quickly.
But again, Beatrice, it's a lesson of the last crisis that it's very hard for European institutions to move quickly, and indeed to move quickly in the reforms that they've been putting in place in the time since. Do you think they can move fast enough?
Yeah, I disagree. I think that the lesson from the last crisis is that when things get really bad, they do stand together. This has happened both for you know, at the time of the Greek crisis, there were over weekends big new packages were put together, and the same is true for the ECB, which you know, has shown much more flexibility than people would have expected even a week ago. So there is, I think, a chance that this will happen. I definitely hope that it will.
Does this idea imply that now you and your colleagues think that monetary policy is out of ammunition?
That's not the intention here. This is a companion of monetary policy, and monetary policy, you know, is, at the end of the day, by definition, unlimited. So the ECB has, you know, shown a strong commitment to do. I'm not going to say whatever it takes now because those are no longer the words, but the unlimited commitment is there, and that's at the end of the day what markets understand. So monetary policy is not at the end, but now the fiscal counterpart at European level is what we need to put in place.
It's very hard to look for positive news in the crisis as it is at the moment. But on the other hand, if something like this was put in place and it was a success, could this be a model for how to deal with future crises?
It certainly would be a strong signal, again, of European and Euro area standing together. And it would also be a strong signal for those who are now really at the forefront of this crisis. But I'm not sure it is a model for future crises, because most crises that we've had over the last decade have been financial crises, and they are of a different kind. Now we have a pandemic crisis, and hopefully we are not going to have another one in a decade.
Well, we have to hope that we're not going to see one of these in the near future, or indeed in any future. Beatrice, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim.
And I'm sure we'll be seeing you again soon. Now, the Centre for Economic Policy Research will be keeping you informed about the global economic impact of the COVID-19 crisis, with articles at Vox EU, ebooks, we published 2 of them already, and regular video and audio podcasts and webinars. So keep checking back every day. There will be something new for you. And if you want to know more about the topic we've been talking about today, the article at Vox EU is called A Proposal for a COVID Credit Line. I can't list all the authors now, there's a lot of them, but have a look, it really is a remarkable lineup. Also, you can download Vox EU's free ebook on the policy response to COVID-19, and that is called Act Fast and Do Whatever It Takes. You'll find both of these also in the COVID-19 section of Vox EU. Well, that's all for now, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye.